Yesterday, I went on a walk. And for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram, I highly recommend it. I have been chronicling my relationship, if you will, with this particular home. It's in my neighborhood. It's about a block away. And it's an unreal, gorgeous mansion level house. It's got the infinity pool. There's an unobstructed view for basically 170 degrees of the viewpoint perspective. It's brand new, never been lived in. It's on 5 acres. It's got a casita, 28-foot ceilings. This home it's gorgeous. And it's got the big, glass windows that open up to the one side of the house it's quintessential Scottsdale home. Gorgeous. And on my Instagram, as I referenced, I've been chronicling what happened, why this house now is on my radar and what it means. The backstory is that several years ago, I was in a mental programming event. It was put on by a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, a guy that's 20th or less in the world at what he does. Like, he's incredible at teaching and understanding this level of brain science, manifesting, whatever you want to call it. And in this specific meditation, I was visualizing myself at a level to which I had yet to achieve. I had figured it all out. I had conquered my demons. My money was on point. My body was on point. My relationships were on point. I was in this heightened state of evolution for who I am as a person based off of where I was at the time of this visualization/meditation. Hypnosis, really. It was quite a hypnotic experience. And in this visualization, I remember some specifics about a home that I was a part of that was in my best life. This home had this incredible driveway on the right side of it. It was overlooking a valley. It had this pool. I was there with my person. I was feeling in this specific hypnosis just alive. Like it was mine. It was very, very real. My inner world was on fire in my mind at how ridiculously detailed this vision was. And years ago when that happened, I kind of just enjoyed the experience, put it to bed, and realized that was in my subconscious somewhere, and it meant something. It was pulled up from some place inside of me of what I really, really want and what I want to create for my life. And I just kind of left it at that. Well, here we are literally 4 or 5 years later. A couple months ago, actually not even a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, I was on a walk and I walked by this house and I got the goose pimple tingles all over my body as I looked at it because I had seen this house before. This house was the house that was in my visualization. It was the house to which I had seen myself standing next to with my person, overlooking this valley. And as my inner world and my outer world are now having this handshake about, oh, this is the place, it blew my mind. Oh my gosh, did it blow my mind. I had this moment where I go, holy shit. And all of these sort of misconceptions that I had about what that original vision meant came to my mind. For some reason, I had thought when I originally had that vision that it was a place in Utah. There are several parts of Utah, whether it's in Alpine, up on the bench, or in Bountiful, or where you can get homes that have enough vantage point up on a hill to where you can see the valley and it has this massive sort of overlook. When I moved to Scottsdale several years ago, it didn't even pop up in my mind the possibility that that home that I had envisioned would be here. Namely because my life wasn't in a place where I felt like I was dreaming. I was dealing with, of course, marriage issues, as I've shared about here. I was dealing with, the rebuild of a company, the transition of a Utah-based company to an Arizona-based company, and stuff with my health, stuff with my family. My father died. There was just so much that was taking me away from this life of dreaming and visualizing. And so I just kind of forgot about it. And, the separation happened. I moved into this new place. I'm walking around this neighborhood and I see this house. And all of a sudden, it just excited inside of me all of these wonderful feelings. The short version is I was able to tour the home. It's a listed property here. I was able to tour the home twice. I went up the first time. It was during the day. I took some videos, some pictures. I walked around. I asked the realtor questions. I was there with a friend and his girlfriend. And it just was this thing where I was soaking in all of the sensory experiences of this home, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, the olfactory, the gustatory moments that I could have as data inside my mind as I continued to do the work to want to actually experience this house in my real life. Several days later, we were able to tour it again, but this time at dusk and at night with all the fancy lights on and overlooking the valley and the sky going from orange to purple to black. And it was something really, really special. I started to realize how powerful the idea of manifesting is on a couple different levels. It became something at that moment where I decided, like further, based off of the original vision that I'd had, as well as my experience in that moment, that I will, at some point, live in that home. I will own that home. It's just something that feels right at the core of who I am. Can't deny it. Mine. Now, the reason why I give all that backstory and I start with this is because there are two things to which I want to really address. It's really, really important to understand the process of creating your best life, the process of manifesting the law of attraction, whatever label you want to put on it based off of where you're at in your own development of that, whatever life you're living now in comparison to the one you actually wish you had, whatever that means. Bigger house, better relationships, more money, better body, connection to spirit, whatever the specific metric that you want increased, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being really open and honest with yourself about where you're at right now and then conceptualizing where you want to be. The process of doing that, whatever you label it, manifesting, creating your best life, the law of attraction, whatever. That's what I want to talk about because there's an actual process when you start to do this work that is very, very predictable. And as you understand this process and you lean into it more, what happens is every moment of discomfort becomes an invitation for you to recognize where you are being invited to improve yourself, your life, your capacity, and your resources to actually experience the life that you want. All that with the house, notwithstanding, really, really great experience. I will have it one day. Great. Let's put a pin in this part of the conversation because I want to take you to another part. Yesterday as well, I was just by myself. It was a Sunday. And I decided there's this really cool spot here in Scottsdale. It's called Trevor's. It's a restaurant, it's a liquor store, and they have a cigar room. And the cigar room almost feels like a speakeasy in that it's in the back, it's kind of secluded and private, and I enjoy a good stick every now and then. And so I was just by myself. I went over to Trevor's and I sat and I started to just in the space and quiet of the moment, smoke my cigar, enjoy my time, just sit there by myself and let my mind wander. I stayed off my phone pretty much until I decided to start writing down some ideas. And I heard this trending audio one time on TikTok that said basically, the next and final level of this game is you as the final boss. The next thing you have to conquer in this game is yourself. And I started to connect the imagery and ideas of a video game that like the final boss of the video game is you. And so I started comparing and combining these two stories. This story of me wanting this incredible home and realizing it's not just something you just go buy. It's a $8 million house basically. And as I've shared on my stories on Instagram and as I've chronicled this whole experience, I personally don't have $8 million to go buy it. As far as I'm aware, I don't have the capacity to borrow $8 million. And even if I did, I am not in a position with my business and our reoccurring revenue to be able to handle the debt service on $8 million loan for a home, let alone the expenses of it. Now, all of those thoughts create a little bit of discomfort inside me because I'm like, well, I really want it. There's tension between me wanting it and the reality of the moment. And that tension is what I'm talking about is this invitation. You've heard me reference something called the buffer. The buffer is the middle part between what you've decided that you want and going to get it. And as you lean and work toward that thing, the uncomfortable feelings you experience, the discomfort, the challenges, those are a part of that middle buffer that are the invitation to level yourself up. So as an example, on that second visit over to the home that I referenced, I was driving down the driveway when we were done, and I started thinking about, well, what would the power bill be on a house like this? What would the water bill, the gas bill? What's the HOA in this part of the development? What are some of the other costs associated with this? What is a landscaper ground crew cost to manage this? And I started realizing, I started feeling this discomfort in my body, this sort of like, oh, it's going to be so expensive. And that moment where I started to feel uncomfortable, I realized that's only right now in my mindset because of two things. First of all, is my perspective, the filter, my mindset on how I'm looking at this, which is a limiting belief, as well as my own experience of not having had stability in a way that would make that easy. See, the part of this that is interesting, for me at least, is I've lived in very large homes before. I've lived in an 11,000 square foot home I bought back in 2009. I've lived in an 8,000 square foot home that was next to a creek. I've had luxurious real estate as a part of my lived experience, but I don't live in those anymore. And so I now recognize what happened as business changed and finances altered and whatnot, to where I had to either get out or sell those homes. So I'm taking with me this ghost from before of, well, I had what I had and then I lost what I had. Is that what's going to happen at this one? Because I'm deciding I'm going to have this house. And then anyway, all of this discomfort and negative feeling, I'm looking at this going, this is great. This is the roadmap to exactly where I need to go to be able to get myself to be at the level required to win that part of life. So quite literally, in this figurative game of life, the final boss that I have to overcome is me. The final boss you have to overcome is you. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. And this is why I'm bringing it up today. And by the way, I want to make sure something's clear. This episode of The Lab, which by the way, welcome to The Lab. I'm your host, Bryce Prescott, is unscripted. It's right off the dome. I don't have any notes in front of me. I'm looking right at the camera when I talk. I decided I wanted to just freestyle this. Stream of consciousness. Share my thoughts, my feelings. Allow that to come through, because that, again, is another part of this whole process of my own development into who I need to become to handle that level of life. Now, back to the things that people get wrong. See, the problem that happens in scenarios like this is that they don't recognize that the missing piece for their discomfort, and the reason why they're feeling the discomfort, is because they're not clear on exactly what they want. So, for example, for me, I'm very, very clear on the exact house that I want to live in. I'm very, very clear on the specific amenities that that house has, the location. I've looked into the cost. I get it. It's very clear in my mind. So now, as I look at that house and I have these moments of discomfort and sometimes even insecurity or doubt, I now have a direct signal coming straight from inside of me, my subconscious mind, saying, this is where you get to do the work. You want that house? It requires this. You want that experience? It requires this. And the this, quote unquote, I'm referring to is that discomfort, the feeling of worry. Okay, well, if I'm worrying about money, that means that there's certain parts of me that haven't developed both a secure mindset about money, a growth mindset about money, or done the work in my business to have the evidence that the money is there consistently to be able to afford it. If I'm having a discomfort about anything related to any goal like that, it's a direct line basically back to yourself so that you can learn, well, if I'm going to pull that off, this is what I need to understand. This is what I need to do. This is who I need to network with. These are the skills I need to learn. It's a very, very simple map when you start to pay attention to your emotions. When you realize your emotions are nothing but a signal. They are a diagnosis. They're saying, hey, look here, look right here. What most people get wrong, and the problem in that is they don't see or recognize how big of a part of that whole equation the knowing what you want is. If you're going through life and just willy-nilly saying you want certain things in your life, or I would love to have more money, or I would love to have a better body, or I'd love my relationship to be better, you're not getting detailed. You're not going from macro to micro to understand the specifics of what it means. So your mind, your soul, it really doesn't have a lot to go on because it doesn't have details. You want more money? Great. How much more money? Why do you want more money? What are you going to use that money on? How are you going to manage it? What type of spender are you going to be? How are you going to bless the lives of others? When you haven't gone into the specific details of what and why, the how cannot present itself to you. It's very, very simple. My encouragement, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up today and to bring in, of course, the concept of life as a video game and you being the final boss, is that I encourage anyone who is listening or watching this show to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want out of my life? And get very detailed. Do you like homes? Great. What type of homes? What do you want your forever house to be? Macro details, micro details. What do you want your relationship with your partner to be like? What do you want your relationship with your children or family to be like? When you get very, very detailed in your desires and understanding of what you want things to be, two things happen. First of all, now, your subconscious mind, which is one of the most powerful focus agents that exists, it will focus on things and bring things to your attention and awareness that you don't even know it's doing. It's the same reason why when you buy a new car, you start to see that car everywhere else. It's not that those cars are anywhere that they weren't. It's just now your mind is focusing on it because it has been given permission to because of your purchase. It is a focus agent. So when you go and get detailed about exactly what you want, your subconscious mind as a focus agent will start to illuminate to you ideas, opportunities, people, events, to which if you were to involve yourself in, it would put you in a position to either grow into that person that you need to earn the money that you would need to achieve it, to become more skillful in ways that you need to. There are several ways that this works, but it's all starts by knowing what you want. And knowing what you want starts by allowing yourself to ask, what do I want? I want you to consider that question right now. When was the last time you actually allowed yourself to think or feel about what you want? To get really detailed, well, what do I want out of my life? And to go macro to micro, to get into the fine details. I'm willing to bet it's been a minute. Or, and even worse, if you did, you played small. See, in my coaching business, one of the things that's very important when I work with either clients one-on-one or within my group coaching experience, the lab, is I walk people through this process of giving yourself permission to ask that question. And one of the very first exercises that I encourage and require of anybody that's going to work with me is to make 2 lists, each of 100 items. One is material items that you want in your life. You want that Rolex, you want that plane, you want that Ferrari, you want those box seats at the game, put it on that list. Allow yourself to go through the process of thinking, I want that toy, I want that material item. The other list is a list of 100 experiences. You want to give a massive gift to your child for graduation. You want to be on the 50-yard line at the Super Bowl. You want to fly private somewhere. You want to own a private jet and have the experience of negotiating that. Whatever the experience is, you write it on that list. And the mere process of allowing that to happen is stretching internal boundaries that you might not have known you even had. And those boundaries are interesting because without fail, every person that does this exercise and works with me gets a certain amount in, maybe it's 25, 30, 35, 40, and they can't go anymore. And it's not because there's not more things they want, it's because they start to talk themselves out of it. They start to buy into a story. I don't need much, man. I've never been somebody that was really into this. Or they get even trickier where they say, oh, it's easier for me to pick the experiences, but the material items I don't really need. These are all stories. This is not an exercise of need. This is an exercise of want. And an individual's willingness to just ask themselves what they want and then to quantify that in a way that is earnest and honest, it's one of the most aligned things that you can do for yourself because it gets past all of the noise, all of the limiting beliefs, all of the nonsense that makes you say, I don't need this. There's so much that you bypass when you just allow yourself to dream. And that is what is the actual work when it comes to creating your best life. The most impactful part of you creating the life that you want is actually knowing what it is. The life that you want, you can't just stumble into. If you do not have a clear vision of where you want to go, how can you get there? If you don't have a target, where are you aiming? All of the things related to the law of attraction or neuro-linguistic programming or manifesting, they have nowhere to go. And so they go places that sometimes you like, sometimes you don't like, but are by far not exactly what you want. Now, can you have a great life by doing that? Yeah. Can you have a happy, fulfilled life? Sure. But you also could be missing out on being the true author of your life by deciding exactly what you want in all of those areas. And I'm going to tell you this, though. It's work to sit down and to start breaking apart the different domains of your life, your health and fitness, your relationship with money, your relationship with people, your spirituality. And you start to then quantify, well, what do I want out of this? What can we do? How would this show up? What would that life be like? It takes attention. It takes effort. And sometimes it's uncomfortable because, like I said, you try to talk yourself out of it like it's an unnecessary exercise. It doesn't mean anything. It's not real. Your nihilism will pop up. Your skepticism will pop up. All of the limiting beliefs that you have about your own ability to achieve and experience a great life start to get thrown up in your face. That voice in your head starts to offer commentary that is not supportive of you having what you want. That voice in your head is a mechanism of comfort. It's there to keep you in a familiar place. Familiarity is comfortable. It doesn't mean that it's nice, comfortable. It's just predictable. And predictability is comforting. So you stay small. And so if you don't do these things, if you don't take charge of exactly what you want, asking yourself those questions, doing exercises like the one I've shared where you're making lists of your desires, the life that you live will not be one that you chose. The life that you're living was chosen by somebody, whether you or your circumstances, or maybe it was projected on you by somebody else. Maybe your partner has more control over the specifics of that life than you care to admit. Regardless, the life that you're living was put in motion by someone. And if it wasn't fully you, that means you weren't the author of it. And that's not a good place to be. What happens if you stay in that place and you don't grab the pen and you don't decide what you want and you don't allow that buffer to take place? Like in my case, I know what house it is. So now every moment of discomfort that I have as I deal with money and projection and timing is inviting me to be a better version of myself, inviting me to have more capacity, inviting me to learn, to network, be more resourceful. And those invitations are leveling me up in my capacity to be better in every way. If you don't do the same for yourself, you will lose. Life will be a loss. Now, it does not mean you can't have joy and love and experience, but you will have lived so far below the potential that you have that you will end up disappointed. And you will have a misunderstanding about the actual science of achievement and manifesting that I'm sharing here. The things that I'm sharing here are tried and true. They work. When you do the work of knowing what you want, you put yourself in motion, you use each negative experience as an invitation to make yourself better, and then you allow and receive those experiences come into your life so that you can actually enjoy it. It works. There are millions upon millions of people that have used this to their own benefit. But you don't get to take credit for work you haven't done. If you don't do that work and know exactly what you want, and then take each negative experience and emotion as an invitation, and then do the work to level up there and to put yourself in a position to grow and expand, you don't get to do that and then get the reward. And you also don't get to do that and then fail and then blame the system, saying the system doesn't work. That's not how that is. What I'd like you to do is I want to extend an invitation to you. I want you to try that exercise. Make 2 lists, 100 items each, 1 material items, 1 experiences you'd like to have, and see how deep you can get into that list as you allow yourself to put your future self into a space and a life to which you don't have right now. What would it be like for you to drive your dream car? What's it feel like in your hands, the steering wheel? What's it like to gas up your dream car? Your home, the trips, the travel, the connection with family, the spiritual things. What would that be like? Allow yourself to first dream of it, to know it, to want it, and then to, in your inner world, go experience it so that your outer world can now, through its focusing, show you the way. If you do that, if you do those lists, something in you will unlock. And it's a very, very quick shift from your life starting to show you how this is going to work by giving you almost immediate reasons to believe than if you don't. And truthfully, I've been asked before, what does the LAB stand for? The LAB is actually, I haven't really ever said this before, but it's an acronym. It stands for learn, apply, become. That's the formula of life. Learn, apply, become. And everything that I've been teaching you here, everything I'm encouraging you to do is in that. I have a fancier equation that I say, which is diagnosis plus integration equals transformation. That's fancier. That sounds more like chemistry and the lab thing works. But the truth of it is, it's just the same. It's learn, apply, become. So learn what you want. Learn what's holding you back. Apply and integrate things that can help you to get it, and then become that person. It's formulaic. My friends, I really appreciate you allowing me to kind of go off script with this. I really want you to win, and I want you to win big. But you've got to start by defining what it means for you to win. What is the life of yours that's a winning life? What do you experience on a day-to-day basis? What are the material items that are in your world? What are the experiences you have? Who are the people that are around you? Until you can get clear on those things, it will be a lot more difficult and confusing than you want it to be. So I end this episode with that invitation. Go figure out what you want. Make those lists. And if this episode resonated with you and you feel inspired by it, I just have a favor. Please share it. Please go leave me a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify, 5-star preferably. Please get this conversation into the ears and eyeballs of more people. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on my socials. This is the type of stuff that I do all the time. This is the type of effort and focus we have in my group experience, the lab group experience. And of course, for all of my one-on-one clients, they just collapse time and they accelerate these achievements and realizations way, way quicker because we're able to get right to the heart of it. But all that notwithstanding, thanks again for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Bryce Prescott. This is The Lab. And like I always say, until next time, take it a day at a time. I'll see you.